Under an hourless sky the city tilts, cobbles develop lungs, mortar hums psalms in a dialect older than heat, and I, opsimath of ink dust, palimpsest eater, marginalia herdsman, am unstitched by a curvilinear mischief that rejects corner, refuses edge, laughs Euclid into an oubliette of chalk. Listen. Not listening with ears, but with the anterior of thought, where exems grow rootlets and drink from noctilucent wells, there the apparition articulates itself as anti-catastra, a cartogram of elsewhere. A canoma wearing crowns, angles hatch teeth and gnaw their own premises, radii molt, perimeters elope with tides, all ordinances of measure become ashlar ghosts that cannot hold a plumb. Names fail and so I borrow dead tongues like candlesticks. Rhythmos limps, Mayat averts her gaze, Arta coughs saffron dust, Logos phrase to loom threads that won't obey the shuttle. Every idiom I reach for becomes a trapdoor in the sentence, a sly fenestella where grammar slips its leash and hunts me across epics. I who choreographed breath upon breath in Miltonic scroll and Vedic coil now discover breath choreographing me, lungs as metronomes gone feral, tempo as a trickster enthroned on my glottis. Clauses buck. Participles refuse harness, conjunctions sulk in the vestibule like minor gods denied incense. The thing that isn't thing proceeds by syzygies, city desert, bronze belt whale heart, cloister walk basalt lava, somewhere an astrolabe learns to sweat, somewhere an abacus eats figs and counts backward, somewhere a codex grows eyelids and refuses to be read except by moon milk. Every artifact adopts vertebrae, every alleyway learns to pronounce me. I am decleansed by streets, declined like a noun in a grammar that admits only vocatives and storms. Cytherism inside stone, apricity at midnight, a wind from a library not yet founded riffling pages not yet written. The horror nicks the vein of chronology and drinks without swallowing. It practices enantiodromia on my certainties, turning all thesis into its unbrother, minutes unknot, calendars yawn. Clocks forget their teeth and gum the hours into porridge. I taste iron filings in the air and call it sacrament because no other rubric will seat itself upon this altar of misrule. I bargain with metaphors like a market wife with onions, yet each bulb peels to reveal another market, another wife, another vocabulary. Catachresis advances in polite shoes and leaves with my furniture. Anakaluthon barges in without knocking and rearranges the table settings of cause. Opisipesis hovers like a hawk that never lands. Words acquire mastheads, claim maritime law, sail past me toward gulfs where alphabets drown by choice. I follow, a literature declassified into flotsam, upheld by footnotes that grow barnacles. Street lamps sprout antlers and debate Zoroaster, gargoyles lip read the book of Job and apply for rain. A ziggurat folds itself into an umbrella and auditions for monsoon. Ink, mannerly for decades, suddenly develops a provincial accent and insists on conjugating my fingerprints. I permit it, because refusal has been annexed by a larger empire, one that issues passports in sleep. Yes, sleep. That counterfeit embassy, now shuttered, dream tax levied, rem sequestered under glass like a saint's knuckle. I attempt a resume of the uncontainable and the page flinches. I summarize and the summary grows tendrils, pays no rent, annesses the margins, declares itself principality. Every jeton I toss to negotiate passage returns as a bird that nests in my mouth. I cough hatchlings and call them essays. They refuse bibliographies, prefer weather, purpose. I ask, knowing but as brittle, intention answers by molting into a lawn, pure vector bereft of destination, such puissance that even negation becomes a choreography, arabesques of refusal inscribing circles that decline to close. Someone, perhaps me from a back when, whispers O lieu of truth, give me truce. The apparition bargains only in overfullness, surcharge et surconsummation of semblances. Amphory of dusk poured into reliquaries of thunder. I sip and grow libraries under the tongue. Catalogues germinate between molar and molar. A scriptorium sets up shop on the palate and hires bees as scribes. Honeycomb rubricates the initial capitals, illumination performed by mauves that remember Alexandria and will not forgive water. Take Raccourcis, advises a sign that writes itself on the fog. I refuse and am rewarded with detours that teach. I decoupe the enormity into liturgies, then into breath beads, then into syllables that hop like desert hares. Still too much, still widening, still the serpent bite of infinity through the heel of sequence. I draft requits to absent custodians, permit ingress, grant egress, explain curvature, replies arrive stamped with seals showing kings who never reigned, each decree invites prayer. But prayer arrives as machine, crank handle rosary, gear-toothed kyrie, piston gloria, theology learns Greece, choir boys receive spanners with their psalms. Language, my old furnace, anthropomorphizes itself into a docile dragon, then remembers it is tide, it drags coastlines across maps, leaves countries asking where their borders went, idioms I exhume from long-buried tongues, to milk the comet, to comb the lion backward, to tie a knot in fog, return useful for once, describing acts I must perform to remain unshredded, and still the city tilts further, basilicas practice photosynthesis, laundries canonize steam, looms recite Hesiod while weaving smoke into garments the color of arithmetic. Non-Euclid, that patient saboteur, writes me marginalia in chalk upon air, here, a right angle with stage fright, there, a parallel bribed into rendezvous, lines that once vowed distance now elope. A cone teaches me thirst by becoming salt. I drink shadow. I digest echo. I exhale cartography, breath goes baroque, curls into volutes, nests cherubs in alveoli. Physicians of letters shake their heads and prescribe paragraph, but I cannot resume that prosthesis, formatting feels like fencing off lightning with ribbon. I pronounce reveille upon myself, awake, yet waking slews its skin and reveals another waking beneath. Désormais extends beyond henceforth into a climate where future and past exchange passports. Durée refuses division, laughs at our minute harvesters, and when at last I attempt to count, numbers turn shy, cover their faces with veils of dust, insist on pseudonyms. 7 calls itself harbor, 12 insists it is skin, 0 arrives as a carnivorous garland and I, ever the opsimath, wear it. Do not ask for clarté the way a window asks for sun, ask as basalt asks for tide. Rough, unwilling, but eventually revised, clarity here is a treachery wearing gloves. I flirt with it, I lose a century, yet from the loss grows a melange where scholarship copulates with weather, lexicon with moss, citation with hoofprint. My sentences become caravanserai, Anatolian dawn, Malian dusk, Polynesian midnight camped inside the same clause. Caravans trade salt for syllables, obsidian for proverbs, cinnamon for alphabets. Every barter leaves residue on my tongue, tastes like Atlas. And still the entity, meekly monstrous, tends to me, a caretaker that nurses by unknitting. It tucks me into blankets woven from aborted theorems, hums lullabies composed in scales that include distances between colors, pats my hair with hands made of corridors. When I weep, it lends me a cistern. When I laugh, it threatens to legalize lightning. I sign, I date, the date bites, ink drinks me, pen confers citizenship upon drought, my poesy grows thorns, then church bells, rings itself, answers itself. Swallows the clapper and speaks thunder through marrow. Purpose again, sly as foxglove, not telos but tessellation, not arrival but recursive hospitality. I offer the text as host and am hosted by the text that grows out of my offering. A hall of reciprocal doors where each threshold introduces a room that remembers having been my rib. I knock. My knuckles sprout ideograms, doors read me, then open inward toward seas that refuse shoreline for ethical reasons. I applaud. The waves accept tenure, we schedule office hours at Typhoon. At last, no, not last, merely a courteous diminuendo, the city writes itself or pretends, cobbles exhale, mortar forgets its psalms. I remain reworded, common speech stands at the gate with hat in hand, asks to be let back in, perhaps someday. For now I keep to this feral rhetoric, this archipelago of clauses that consent to float but not to dock. I send you this braid of salt, ash, glowworm, and library dust. Call it report, call it reliquary, call it whatever your century can stomach, only do not slice it into paragraph. Allow it to breathe its long strange breath across your seeing until angles behave, or until you no longer require them to.